Hi, I'm Manni Chopra. I'm a property developer, investor, author of Cash Rich, Time Rich, host of the J6 Property Meet, an entrepreneur, and above all, a mother of two. I started getting into property in 2010 when I took a sabbatical from my IT job. I was overworked and underpaid, and I was juggling too many balls in the air with a small, very young family, a job that wasn't really going anywhere, and I knew I had to do something about it. That's when I got some training and lots of networking, and I decided I want to go into property. So I first went into my big investment, having bought two buy-to-lets earlier on in about 2001, which I didn't really do very much with, but it just sort of kept us going, to my first HMO in Bracknell, which was a 5-bedroom semi-detached property, and I converted that into a professional house share. Women are instrumental in the day-to-day operation of my business. So from the time when we look at a site, a scheme, and we want to know what can the scheme involve. So my architect, Sandra Orlando Payne of Inhabited Architects from Windsor, to my planning consultant, Emily Temple, to my building contractor, Parminder Mew, even our latest addition, Nicole Barrett, that you have met, my lettings manager. Also, my event, J6 Property Meet, is run by two women who are at the registration desk, and you can't get past them without showing them your ticket. It's Seema Cambodge and TJ Patel. So as you can see, my entire team and my entire business is run by women. Last but not the least, Preeti Bath, who is my office manager and is going to be very instrumental in helping us grow this business and scale it up to the next level. These are the top 3 challenges I feel women in property are currently experiencing. 1, not being taken seriously. 2, intimidated by men, other strong men, and obviously in our career or in our property development business, you're constantly having to juggle a pipeline of deals and pipeline of money, and having to then obviously go to investors, and not being taken seriously can not be very pleasant, and obviously you've got the juggling act to do with the family as well. So I think these are really the top 3, in my view, facing women in the industry right now. These are the 3 advantages I think that women have over men in the property industry. Whether we like it or not, we're definitely better multitaskers. So we can juggle, home, work life a lot better. Secondly, I think we are a lot more approachable. So if you have someone knocking on your door, asking you whether you want to sell your house, I think if it's a bloke in a nice suit and booted versus a woman, you'd find the woman a lot less intimidating, and I think she definitely has an advantage there. And last but not the least, I think we are a lot more compassionate, less aggressive, and we can empathize a lot more. So getting the right work-life balance has been very important to me from day one when I got into property. Because that was my ulterior motive actually. And the way I feel I balance it out is I have strict sort of time scales. I start work, generally speaking, at 10 a.m. So in the morning, I've done all my bits and pieces with the kids, either send them off to school, prepare a fresh lunch for them to take to school, and I stop work at 4 o'clock for about an hour or so, where I can give them some fresh early dinner when they come home. And then obviously after that, I'm free to continue and carry on till however late I want to work. But I've got those boundaries I've set myself. And on most days, obviously with some exceptions, I tend to adhere to those. And that's how I make sure I'm there for the kids when they leave to school and when they get back. And that's really very important to me. So another aspect of getting the work-life balance for me was particularly very, very important. I work with my husband and business partner, Manni Chopra. And obviously, initially, when we started working together, we both came from corporate backgrounds, and we just obviously weren't used to being in the same room in the day, during the day. And we ended up sort of, quarreling or arguing over small things and focusing on each other's weaknesses. But over time, we realized that we all have our own strengths, and our business is quite nicely sort of worked around that model where I focus on bringing the deals and doing the deal appraisals, and Romy focuses on the finance side of things. So it fits in very nicely into our sort of personal strengths. And again, having to switch again in the evening and becoming a husband and wife role from being business partners, was very tricky, but we've sort of slowly adjusted to that. And now it comes quite naturally to us, really. I think the property industry is very suitable for women, actually, because you can choose what and how you want to do it. You can work as long or as little as you want. So whether you've got little kids, young kids going to primary school, or older kids like myself now who go to secondary school, I started in property when my kids were in primary school, and I juggled my whole business hours around them. So I literally did the meetings in the sort of morning between sort of 9 and 3 o'clock. And then I continued doing some laptop work, online work after about 6 o'clock. So it really suited with my business goals. And you can be as ambitious as you want or not, as it were the case. So, and as they get older and you have less commitments in terms of, the time that they need you for, you can just go all the way. So I honestly think it's a great career for women, and you can be as big or stay as sort of in your comfort zone as you want to. My advice to women who are actually starting to actually get into the property industry now would be play to your strengths. So work out what your strengths are. For me, I think I did the talent dynamics test by Roger Hamilton, and that made me focus on, what am I really good at, what I'm okay at, and what I'm really bad at. And then play to your strengths. The other thing I would say is don't underestimate yourself. Because, there are a lot of people, we can do a lot of great things, but often it's us who are often very harsh to ourselves, and we're not appreciating our talents enough. So, I would say appreciate yourself a lot more. And again, it comes back to the same point where, work to where your USP is, and really either go for it or just take it slowly, step by step. But I would say, do a lot of networking, because that really helped me out. Make sure you get an education. Don't just jump into it blindly. And with regards to compliance, don't ever compromise on that. So make sure whether you're sourcing properties or you're working with investors, work within the rules. My plans for the immediate future are very exciting. So we're looking to do a lot more deals, a lot more projects, like the one in Reading. Also do projects like Watford, build up that pipeline of deals and investor pipeline. And most excitingly, we've got a new program that we're launching in 2020. It's called Mastermind with Manni. It's a very unique program, actually. There's nothing like that in the property development space, where we get 10 property developers, probably just new property developers with a little bit of experience, who come together and collaborate on a deal. So the 3 different criteria that they need to have access to 100 grand of funding, they need to have some relevant property development experience, and they need to be obviously pro-development. So these are the 10 people I'm going to be working with, focusing 2020 on not just doing a deal together, but also learning from the industry experts. So in the 12 sessions that we have in 2020, each of those sessions will be covered by an industry expert, starting from finding the right sites, finding the right properties, right through to marketing your sites once you've built them, and everything in between. And we're also going to be talking about sustainable building projects, the future. So things like off-site construction, modular, using cross-laminated timber. So these are the sort of projects where it's massive in Europe, but UK are far behind it. So how are we going to, reduce the demand on the environment and go with sustainable products, go with off-site construction, and reduce the demand on on-site labor as well. So it's a really exciting project, and I'm working with 10 very, very committed property developers on this to create an exciting mastermind program. Right, so we are in 2010, and I am juggling too many things right now. So I've got my 2 young little kids who I've got a very small gap between them, and then I've got a job in IT, which is 4 days a week. I felt I was pretty much sort of not giving justice to any one of those things, and obviously felt underpaid and overworked. Also, my job in IT wasn't really going anywhere, and that's when I thought, seriously, I've got to do something about this. So in 2010, I took a sabbatical and I got myself educated and trained, and then spent a whole year of learning and actively networking with people, and finally I managed to get my first HMO project, which was a 5-bedroom semi-detached house in Bracknell, which I then converted into a 6-bed HMO, and that was using the money we had made from a couple of buy-to-lets we had bought in London. So when we were, my husband and I, in full-time jobs prior to 2010, we had some money that we'd saved up, bought a couple of buy-to-lets, and it had grown in almost 4 times the price. And that's really when we got the idea about, well, if the property prices have gone without actually doing very much to it, because we just had agents looking after them and just rented it out on the open market, it could be so much better if we had a full-time property business and focused on it with a strategy in mind. And that's when we scaled up our HMO business from that point. And back then, I was pretty much doing every single thing in the business, from finding the deals, juggling the money and recycling the money from our old projects to the new projects, finding contractors to develop the houses and create the 5 or 6 bedroom HMO projects, and then having to then list those properties online, find the tenants, and then the paperwork for all these houses to do the tenancies was getting more and more with all the compliance and the regulation introduced by the government. And that's when I thought that we have to scale up the different side of the business. So when we scaled up to doing more developments, and I found this whole end-to-end piece really, really sort of very hard, and that's when I got Nicole into it. And here I am with Nicole, and she's now managing all my HMOs full time. I've managed to outsource it to her, and my life's taken a slightly different tangent where I'm focusing on the development projects. So between 2011 and 2016, we accumulated about 7 properties, and we rented them out typically to anything between 5 and 7 professional tenants. And so my role effectively was managing, obviously finding the deals in the first place, managing the maintenance work, not to mention the initial refurb, which was typically anything between 40 to 70 grand worth of works we were doing in each of those properties to bring them up to a very good standard, because our mantra was always providing a good quality accommodation for our professional tenants. So from paperwork to viewings, to all the tenant liaison, to changing and doing up the rooms in between tenancies. I was pretty much juggling it all, and not to mention obviously a family of 2 kids and a husband that I was having to look after as well. So that's really my main role within the whole sort of that span of time. But again, I was finding it overwhelming, literally juggling all of this. So in 2016, there was 2 or 3 different things that happened which made me change the direction of my business within property. So we firstly reached a sort of saturation point within the markets that we operate in, i.e. Slough, Reading and Bracknell. And we found that there was obviously other landlords doing similar things to what I was doing, and there was a lot more supply on the market. That's when we found the market to really slow down, and we started to look at our strategy and whether we wanted to do HMOs going forward. The second thing was we had an opportunity to look at a house that was on the market which could potentially have a planning permission to build flats, and that's when we started looking at developments. And then obviously there was a culmination of all the juggling that I was doing, and that was reaching a saturation point of my commitment in terms of time, energy and effort on the rental part of the business as well. And that's when we made a conscious shift to developments, and maybe put a temporary stop to buying more HMOs at that point. So from toying with the idea of outsourcing our sort of bread and butter business of HMO rooms to a letting agent, we first had to go through the pain of working with other high street agents who don't really have a grasp of what it is to be a HMO letting agent, to finally finding Nicole from Barrett Lettings in 2019, who specializes in HMO rooms, and we then decided to outsource our lettings of all our rooms to Nicole from Barrett, and here we are.
Hi, I'm Nicole from Barrett Lettings. I manage a number of HMO properties in Berkshire, Slough, Reading and Bracknell. It equates to about 110 rooms at the moment. I also manage around 50 single lets as well in similar areas. Been going since about 2015, but my sort of core business is the HMO management. That's what I like to do the best.
So Nicole, you are managing about 30 rooms?
Yes, yeah, for the last 3 months I've been managing your rooms. Yeah.
To be honest with you, I think thanks to Barrett Lettings, I've managed to focus on the development side of my business. And I think you guys are massively underestimating your leverage, because if you think about it, you've scaled up from 0 to 110 rooms in a space of
4 years.
4 years.
4 years, yeah.
And not to mention the single lets. I think I love for you guys to be part of my sort of power team as such, and I feel we work well together.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, great. Yeah, the communication's good. It's always difficult starting off with a new landlord, especially when they've got a number of HMOs. They do tend to get into bad habits.
We're set in our ways.
You're set in your ways, so I've had to tweak some processes,
yes.
But we've got there now. I've let quite a few rooms for you. It was quite a challenge in the first 3 months, but I think we've settled now and we're at full capacity.
Yeah.
So,
and I like the fact that you guys are doing your monthly, communal inspections, your quarterly room inspections, because I remember there's been times where I've not even been to one of the rooms for about 2 years.
Yeah.
When it comes to doing a move, tenancy checkout, I'm thinking the room's in an absolute state. So thanks to you, hopefully that will now change and we'll have a better...
I think just the tenants knowing that there is going to be some form of presence from a management company, either monthly or quarterly, does make them think, I better, pull my socks up with regards to cleaning and keeping the place tidy and hoovering, for instance, looking after the place.
I mean, Romy mentioned to me, my business partner, that you are amazing. He's seen you in action with the tenants, and he was really admiring you. He's like, Nicole's on the ball.
Yeah.
She knows exactly how to, sort of deal. I mean, tenants at the end of the day are customers, and there's a way of obviously dealing with them, and we love them. But obviously, there is a
boundary. You've got to be firm but fair, but also have a balance of like being ethical, moral, empathy, sympathy. You've got to have all of it. You can't just be a hardened, letting agent.
Absolutely.
I think the way we differ as well is that we work more or less 24 hours. We're contactable all the time, within reason. And that helps as well to keep the letting agent or managing agent and tenant relationship nice and strong.
Honestly,
and that's what keeps them living at the property as well.
Absolutely. And I feel a lot more comfortable now knowing that you are always on top of regulation as well, because that was one thing I was always struggling with, is the paperwork and the compliance.
Yeah, well, we're ALA accredited as well, so I get constant compliance emails, newsletters from ALA as well, so we're on the ball. And if any legislation changes, then I tweak my process to incorporate that. So
exactly, and I think we can sleep better at night.
Absolutely,
I think, as a HMO landlord, and I think the market is getting difficult. I think so. You need a professional like yourself to be in this space, and there was always a gap in the market where the high street agents were simply not being able to provide that service to our HMO landlords.
They're just not interested. So that's why I saw the gap in the market and just ran with it, really. High street agents actually send their HMO landlords to me now. So really? I'm getting into a good place in the market. Yeah.
The other thing I was going to talk about, and I think you mentioned it briefly, was that you might be looking into expanding your business into sales potentially here.
Yeah, so I brought a guy on board because I've noticed since Brexit and since the Section 24 tax changes, a lot of the buy-to-let landlords are starting to put their properties on the market, including my landlords. So I don't like sales, I can't stand it. So I brought somebody in that's going to do that for me, because hopefully I can sell them to more buy-to-let investors and keep the business that way.
Well, actually, maybe there's more collaboration we could potentially do. So
Yeah.
if you're back in the market for HMOs,
Yeah.
you'll be definitely on
Yeah.
your books for sales as well. Then. And then that way it feeds into your lettings business.
Yeah.
So it might just carry on.
Oh no.
Brilliant. So thank you for taking the time
No
out
problem.
and sort of sharing your thoughts with me. And hopefully we'll be
Yeah.
working for lots more time to come. So cheers to that.
Thank you.